Well, hello to you, my YouTube tribe. Welcome to my channel, NTSE Chat Cafe. NTSE here, bringing you another edition of our Spirit-Filled Sunday. And how is the Spirit stirring in you this day? And how are you stirring in the Spirit this day? In what way are you calling to Spirit? And in what way or how is Spirit calling to you? How is the Spirit moving in you? And how are you moving in the Spirit? For Spirit-Filled Sunday this day, or for this week, I am going to be reading from Kahlil Gibran's The Prophet. This is quite an old book, but I think it's still very valid today. And I'm going to be reading from the book on page 60, let me see, yeah, page 67, and it's the section on prayer. So here we go. Then a priestess said, "Speak to us of prayer." And he answered, saying, "You pray in your distress and in your need. Would that you might also pray in the fullness of your joy and in your days of abundance. What is prayer but the expansion of yourself into the living ether? And if it is for your comfort to pour your darkness into space, it is also for your delight to pour forth the dawning of your heart. And if you cannot but weep when your soul summons you to prayer, she should spur you again and yet again, though weeping, until you shall come laughing. When you pray, you rise to meet in the air those who are praying at that very hour, and whom, save in prayer, you may not meet. Therefore, let your visit to that temple invisible be for naught but ecstasy and sweet communion. For if you should enter the temple for no other purpose than asking, you shall not receive. And if you should enter into it humble yourself, you shall not be lifted. Or even you should enter into it to beg for the good of others, you shall not be heard. It is enough that you enter the temple invisible. I cannot teach you how to pray in words. God listens not to your words, save when He Himself utters them through your lips. And I cannot teach you the prayer of the seas and the forests and the mountains, but you who are born of the mountains and the forests and the seas can find their prayer in your heart. And if you but listen in the stillness of the night, you shall hear them saying in silence, Our God, who art our winged self, it is thy will in as thou willeth. It is thy desire in us that desireth. It is thy urge in us that would turn our nights, which are thine, into days which are thine also. We cannot ask thee for aught, for thou knowest our needs before they are born in us. Thou art our need, and in giving us more of thyself, thou givest us all. Okay, I'm going to read that again. It is Old English. However, this is very apropos. Then a priestess said, "Speak to us of prayer." He answered, saying, "You pray in your distress and in your need. Would that you might pray also in the fullness of your joy and in your days of abundance. For what is prayer but the expansion of yourself into the living ether? And if it is for your comfort to pour your darkness into space, it is also for your delight to pour forth the dawning of your heart. And if you cannot but weep when your soul summons you to prayer, she should spur you again and yet again, though weeping, until you shall come laughing. When you pray, you rise to meet in the air those who are praying at that very hour, and whom save in prayer you may not meet. Therefore, let your visit to that temple invisible be for naught but ecstasy and sweet communion. For if you should enter the temple for no other purpose than asking, you shall not receive. And if you should enter into it, humble yourself, you shall not be lifted. Or if you should enter into it to beg for the good of others, you shall not be heard. It is enough that you enter the temple invisible. I cannot teach you how to pray in words. God listens not to your words, save when He Himself utters them through your lips. I cannot teach you the prayer of the seas and the forests and the mountains, but you who are born of the mountains and the forest and the seas can find their prayer in your heart. And if you but listen in the stillness of the night, you shall hear them saying in silence, Our God who art our winged self, it is thy will in us that willeth. It is thy desire in us that desireth. It is thy urge in us that would turn out our nights. It is which are thine into days which are thine also. We can ask thee for aught, for thou knowest our needs before they are born in us. Thou art our need in giving us more of thyself that givest us all. Now, what do you think this is saying? To me, this is saying, and I believe and I know it is saying that when we are busy praying or asking in distress, we are not heard. The divine does not hear us. When, and in terms of prayer, why is it that we only pray when we want something? Why is it that we don't pray in gratitude to give thanks for what we have? If we authentically pray, just to know that for our prayers to be lifted up, we need to also be praying in thanksgiving, and also to keep in mind that when we are praying, others are also praying at that very hour, that our prayers are united with others. Though we may not see them or meet them or connect to them ever, our prayers connect us. So to see a prayer not as a way of asking for things, but a prayer as a way of just connecting to the divine that gifted us with life, that gifted everything with life, or that imbues everything with the living energy, to be at one with ourselves, to really come forth when we come to prayer, to even just say thank you. It's enough of a prayer to acknowledge that we are gifted in many ways. We have been gifted with life, and in that we are blessed in so many ways. To acknowledge that blessing, to acknowledge, go to prayer in gratitude, to give a prayer of gratitude, thanksgiving, which expands our lives more, because as this reading says, God knows what we want before we even utters the word. But when we are only focused on our desires being met, our needs being, what we want now, forgetting that we have so much more that we have yet to even acknowledge or give gratitude for. Our prayers are not heard. So I want to know, what do you think about that? Do you think that if you focus on gratitude, what your desires are lifted up and manifested? That is the question for you this week. So remember to comment down below, and once again, I will truly want to hear from you. What do you which do you think is more effective, giving saying a prayer of gratitude, or giving gratitude as prayer, or thank you to the divine for all the blessings you have in your life as prayer, rather than saying, oh, please help me, I need money, I need a job? And it seems like, well, to me, when we pray, we only, which is what this, we tend to pray and ask for things that we desire only, and we only remember to pray when we're desiring something. And this is saying, prayer should be on in our hearts. It's not necessarily the words we're saying. We need to be at one with the Creator. He talked about the mountains and the seas and the forests. So we need to be at one with all creation to truly acknowledge, appreciate, and give gratitude and thanks for creation and for the Creator that created us, to be thankful for the gift of our lives. So I'll read it one more time. Then a priestess said, speak to us of prayer. He answered, saying, you pray in your distress, in your need, that you might also pray in the fullness of your joy and in your days of abundance. For what is prayer but the expansion of yourself into the living ether? And if it is for your comfort to pour your darkness into space, it is also for your delight to pour forth the dawning of your heart. And if you cannot but weep when your soul summons you to prayer, she should spur you again and yet again, though weeping, until you shall come laughing. When you pray, you rise to meet in the air those who are praying at that very hour, and whom save in prayer you may not meet. Therefore, let your visit to that temple invisible be for naught but ecstasy and sweet communion. For if you should enter the temple for no other purpose than asking, you shall not receive. And if you should enter into it to humble yourself, you shall not be lifted. Or even if you'd enter into it to beg for the good of others, you shall not be heard. It is enough that you enter the temple invisible. I cannot teach you to pray in words. God listens not to your words, save when He Himself utters them through your lips. I cannot teach you the prayer of the seas and the forests and the mountains, but you who are born of the mountains and the forests and the seas can find their prayer in your heart. And if you but listen in the stillness of the night, you shall hear them saying in silence, Our God, who art our winged self, it is thy will in us that willeth. It is thy desire in us that desireth. It is thy urge in us that would turn our nights which are thine into days which are thine also. We cannot ask thee for aught, for thou knowest our needs before they are born in us. Thou art our need, and in giving us more of thyself, thou givest us all. So, my tribe, that is our guidance for this week. So once again, remember to comment down below, in what ways do you think this is right, or do you think that giving gratitude is separate than prayer? I personally believe that when we say thank you to the divine, even when we say thank you to another, that is a form of prayer. To genuinely be genuine and authentic in our gratitude and thanks, our prayers are lifted up because God knows our needs before we even ask. So if we are truly wanting to pray, we need to not focus just on our needs. We need to also put attention to the blessings we've had. Well, tribe, that's our Spirit-filled Sunday this Sunday. Thank you so much for watching. And this is Auntie Essie saying, please press the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. And remember to thumbs up this video, share them with all your friends. And your comments are more than welcome. And remember to comment down below. And also turn your notifications on. Thank you so much again. And stay blessed. Goodbye for now.